Chapter 1. The Cold Strikes. The autumn air carried with it a crisp chill, signaling the transition from the warmth of summer to the cool embrace of fall. As the leaves turned shades of red and gold, Robert found himself drawn to the comforting familiarity of his grandmother's cottage nestled amidst the trees. With a skip in his step, Robert approached the quaint wooden door, its weathered frame a testament to the years of memories contained within. He rapped gently, the sound echoing through the silent morning, before letting himself in. Inside, the air felt different, heavy with a sense of unease that Robert couldn't quite place. His grandmother sat in her favorite armchair, wrapped in a thick blanket, her usually vibrant eyes dulled with exhaustion. "What's wrong, Grandma?" Robert's voice was laced with concern as he approached her side. His grandmother managed a weak smile, though it failed to reach her tired eyes. "Oh, it's nothing, dear," she murmured, her voice hoarse with the effort. But Robert knew better. He could see the telltale signs of illness written on her face, the flushed cheeks, the watery eyes, the incessant sniffles. His heart sank at the sight of her discomfort, a pang of worry gnawing at his insides. "Are you feeling all right?" Robert asked, his brow furrowing with worry. "I'm afraid I've caught a nasty cold," his grandmother admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Robert felt a surge of empathy wash over him. His grandmother had always been a pillar of strength, her unwavering love and support a source of comfort in times of need. Seeing her so vulnerable was a stark reminder of their mortality, a reminder that even the strongest among us could fall prey to illness. Without hesitation, Robert made a decision. He would do whatever it took to make his grandmother feel better, to repay her kindness and love in any way he could. And so, with determination in his heart, he set out to do just that. "Rest here, Grandma," Robert said gently, tucking the blanket more snugly around her frail form. "I'll take care of everything." As his grandmother closed her eyes, succumbing to the exhaustion that weighed heavily upon her, Robert set about his task. He would make her favorite chicken soup, just like she used to make for him when he was sick. He would pour his love and care into every spoonful, hoping to bring her the comfort she so desperately needed. And so, with a sense of purpose burning bright within him, Robert rolled up his sleeves and got to work. Little did he know, this simple gesture of kindness would set into motion a series of events that would forever change the course of their lives. Chapter 2. Cooking up Comfort. With determination in his heart and a clear purpose in mind, Robert set out to make his grandmother's favorite chicken soup. He moved with a sense of urgency, eager to bring her the comfort she needed to fight off the cold that had taken hold of her. As he raided the pantry for ingredients, Robert's mind buzzed with memories of his grandmother's cooking. He recalled the countless times she had stood by the stove, a vision of grace and skill as she whipped up hearty meals that warmed both body and soul. Now, it was his turn to carry on that tradition, to channel her culinary prowess in service of her well-being. With a newfound sense of responsibility, Robert gathered the necessary ingredients: carrots, celery, onions, and of course, a plump chicken, laying them out in neat rows on the kitchen counter. With practiced hands, he washed and peeled the vegetables, his movements precise and deliberate. There was a certain rhythm to the chopping and slicing, a soothing cadence that calmed the turmoil of his thoughts. As he worked, the kitchen filled with the earthy scent of fresh vegetables, a comforting reminder of the warmth and nourishment that awaited. Robert felt a sense of purpose wash over him, a feeling of contentment knowing that he was taking concrete steps to ease his grandmother's suffering. With the vegetables prepared, Robert turned his attention to the star of the show, the chicken. He gently placed it in a large pot of water, the liquid shimmering as it came to a gentle boil. A pinch of salt and pepper added just the right amount of flavor, infusing the broth with a depth that promised to soothe even the most troubled of souls. As the chicken simmered away, filling the kitchen with its savory aroma, Robert felt a sense of anticipation building within him. He knew that his grandmother's favorite soup was more than just a meal, it was a symbol of love, a gesture of care that transcended words. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the chicken was tender and cooked through, its juices mingling with the rich broth to create a symphony of flavors. With trembling hands, Robert carefully removed it from the pot, placing it on a cutting board to cool. Then, with a deftness that belied his years, he shredded the chicken into bite-sized pieces, the meat glistening in the soft light of the kitchen. He added it back to the pot, along with the chopped vegetables, allowing them to simmer together until tender and fragrant. As the soup bubbled away on the stove, filling the air with its comforting aroma, Robert couldn't help but feel a swell of pride in his chest. He had done it, he had made his grandmother's favorite chicken soup, just like she used to make for him when he was sick. And as he ladled the steaming broth into a bowl, ready to serve it to his beloved grandmother, he knew that this simple act of kindness was just the beginning of a journey that would bring them closer together than ever before. Chapter 3: A Touch of Care. With the chicken soup simmering on the stove, its tantalizing aroma filling the kitchen with warmth and comfort, Robert knew that it was time to add the final touches to his masterpiece. As he stirred the pot, the vibrant colors of the vegetables danced in the bubbling broth, promising nourishment and healing for his ailing grandmother. With each swirl of the spoon, Robert poured his love and care into the soup, infusing it with the essence of his devotion. He knew that his grandmother deserved nothing less than the very best, and he was determined to deliver it to her in every spoonful. As the vegetables softened and melded with the tender chicken, the soup took on a richness and depth that was nothing short of divine. Robert couldn't help but marvel at the transformation that had taken place before his eyes, from a simple collection of ingredients to a culinary masterpiece that would rival even the most renowned chefs. But more than just a meal, the soup represented something far greater. It was a symbol of love, a gesture of care that transcended words. With each chop of the knife and stir of the spoon, Robert had poured his heart and soul into creating something special for his beloved grandmother, something that would bring her comfort and solace in her time of need. As he spooned the fragrant broth into a bowl, Robert couldn't help but smile at the thought of his grandmother's reaction. He imagined the look of delight on her face as she took her first sip, the warmth of the soup spreading through her body like a comforting embrace. With a steady hand, Robert carried the bowl to his grandmother's side, careful not to spill a single drop. She looked up at him with weary eyes, her face drawn with exhaustion, but a spark of gratitude shining through nonetheless. "I made you some soup, Grandma," Robert said softly, placing the bowl in her trembling hands. "I hope it helps you feel better." His grandmother's eyes lit up at the sight of the steaming broth, a smile spreading across her face. "Thank you, Robert," she whispered, her voice hoarse but filled with warmth. "You always know how to take care of me." And as she took her first sip, Robert couldn't help but feel a swell of pride in his chest. He had done it, he had made his grandmother smile, even in the midst of her illness. And as they sat together in the warmth of the kitchen, sharing stories and laughter over bowls of homemade soup, Robert knew that this simple gesture of care had brought them closer together than ever before. Chapter 4: A Trip to the Pharmacy. With his grandmother's soup simmering on the stove and her comfort secured for the moment, Robert turned his attention to another crucial task: obtaining her medication. Wrapping himself in a warm jacket against the brisk autumn air, he ventured out into the world, determined to ensure his grandmother had everything she needed to recover. The walk to the pharmacy was brisk, the crunch of fallen leaves beneath his feet a comforting rhythm against the silence of the early afternoon. Despite the chill in the air, Robert felt a sense of purpose driving him forward, a determination to fulfill his duty to his grandmother no matter the obstacles that lay in his path. As he reached the familiar storefront of the pharmacy, Robert's heart quickened with anticipation. Inside, rows upon rows of medicine lined the shelves, each vial and bottle a testament to the miracles of modern science. With a sense of urgency, he approached the counter, his mind racing with the knowledge that his grandmother's well-being hung in the balance. "I need to pick up a prescription for my grandmother," Robert explained to the pharmacist, his voice steady despite the tumult of emotion swirling within him. "She's not feeling well, and I want to make sure she has everything she needs to get better." The pharmacist nodded sympathetically, her eyes kind and understanding. "Of course, dear," she said, her voice soft and reassuring. "What's your grandmother's name?" As Robert provided the necessary information, a sense of relief washed over him. He knew that his grandmother's medication was in good hands, that the pharmacist would do everything in her power to ensure that she received the care she needed. With the prescription in hand, Robert made his way back home, his heart lighter knowing that he had fulfilled his duty to his grandmother. As he stepped through the door of the cottage, he was greeted by the comforting scent of chicken soup wafting through the air, a reminder of the love and care that awaited him inside. His grandmother looked up from her place on the couch, her eyes brightening at the sight of him. "Did you get my medicine, Robert?" she asked, her voice weak but filled with hope. Robert nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "Yes, Grandma," he replied. "I made sure to get everything you need to get better." His grandmother's eyes shone with gratitude as she took the medicine from him, her hands trembling slightly with the effort. "Thank you, Robert," she whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're such a good boy, always looking out for me." And as Robert settled in beside her, the warmth of her gratitude enveloping him like a comforting embrace, he knew that he would do whatever it took to ensure his grandmother's well-being. For in her smile, in her laughter, he found a sense of purpose that transcended words, a love that knew no bounds and a bond that would never be broken. Chapter 5: A Healing Gesture. With the medicine safely in his grandmother's hands and the aroma of homemade chicken soup filling the cozy confines of the cottage, Robert felt a sense of satisfaction wash over him. But his work was far from over. He knew that his grandmother needed more than just medicine and soup to recover from her illness. She needed companionship, comfort, and the reassurance that she was not alone in her struggle. Settling in beside his grandmother on the couch, Robert wrapped an arm around her frail shoulders, drawing her close in a gesture of warmth and affection. He could feel the tension in her body slowly melt away as she leaned into his embrace, her weary eyes closing in gratitude. For a while, they sat in silence, the only sound the gentle crackle of the fire in the hearth and the occasional sniffle from his grandmother's congested nose. But in that silence, a sense of peace settled over them, a silent understanding that they were in this together, bound by love and devotion that transcended words. As the afternoon stretched into evening, Robert found himself lost in memories of happier times, of lazy summer days spent exploring the woods behind the cottage, of cozy winter nights huddled by the fire, of the countless moments of joy and laughter they had shared over the years. But amidst the nostalgia, there was a sense of urgency, a realization that time was fleeting, and that every moment was precious. With a newfound determination, Robert vowed to make the most of the time they had together, to cherish each moment and create new memories that would sustain them in the days to come. And so, with a sense of purpose burning bright within him, Robert set about his task. He regaled his grandmother with stories of his adventures at school, of friends old and new, of dreams and aspirations that filled his heart with hope. He read to her from her favorite books, the words flowing off his tongue like poetry, transporting them to far-off lands filled with magic and wonder. And when his voice grew tired, they sat in companionable silence, content to bask in each other's presence and the warmth of their shared love. As the night drew near and the fire burned low, Robert knew that it was time to retire for the evening. But before he left his grandmother's side, he leaned in close, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Sleep well, Grandma," he whispered, his voice soft with tenderness. "I'll be right here if you need me." His grandmother smiled up at him, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you, Robert," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're such a blessing to me." And as Robert made his way to his own bed, his heart full with love and gratitude, he knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together, with courage, strength, and the unwavering bond of family that would carry them through even the darkest of times.